Hi, so today's video is about 3 or 4 typical ways that we somatize and areas in the body that are prone to somatization. Somatization is basically to develop physical symptoms of pain, discomfort because of emotional reasons. Now, medical doctors basically talk about 3 or 4 typical types of somatization, which is body pain, fibromyalgia can be considered somatization, which is basically chronic pain. So, chronic fatigue and chronic pain, women are more prone to it than men to somatize. And one of the things with somatization is that respiratory, intestinal, and body pain and joint issues are actually typically because of somatization. Somatization basically means the inability of the brain and the body to process emotions. The wiring just didn't take place, or the wiring was disrupted because of trauma. Early childhood trauma is considered one of the major causes of somatization later on in life. So, a person can feel like they're having a heart attack and be taken to ER and find out there was nothing going on. A person can feel extreme body pain, be unable to get up in the mornings, go to the doctor, run all sorts of tests, and find out that there was nothing going on. This is an extremely common, situation. In my opinion, based on what I have been curious about as a therapist, I've looked at the cultural aspects, the socio-cultural aspects of somatization. I find it interesting that it arises in women more than men. It arises in cultures where feelings are not verbalized, just generally, people don't generally verbalize feelings. There is a judgment against verbalizing feelings. And there is a value in being extremely, um, hardworking. There is a very strong work ethic. There is a sense of being useless if the person isn't working or being productive. So there is a sense of worthlessness if a person is sick or is not able to work because they're feeling down, emotionally down. And so, there's a judgment that, you are not being a good person if you're not working. There is a sense of worthlessness if you're not productive or not doing something with your life. Somatization, in my opinion, based on what I have seen, tends to be higher in that kind of an environment where people don't feel completely safe to express their feelings, what they want, and who they are, because there's going to be some rejection, some risks, some consequences of saying such a thing. So, cultures where there are many taboos, many taboos around behavior, many judgments because of gender, many expectations of how people or good people are supposed to behave, many expectations on what is goodness. So it's kind of predefined in the cultural paradigm. Sometimes we can find this in cultures where there's more of a dogma of beliefs, and that can also create a culture of just I'm feeling sick, I'm feeling sick, I'm feeling nauseous, I'm feeling very panicked right now. And there's a tremendous amount of anxiety that's underlying somatization. There's a huge anxiety, and this anxiety cannot be expressed in feelings because of fear of feelings. So there's a tremendous fear of feelings, and I've talked about it in the earlier video. In this video, my focus will be on working with the tendency to somatize and what kind of tools, benefits, mental attitudes and things can help one redo the brain, literally rewire the brain, change the paradigm, make that shift so that emotions are recognized and felt. And this will be actually quite demanding work. It's not easy work. This is actual real work. Most of the time we hear people, talking about therapy as like, just, feel good. You go to a therapist and you feel good. Actually, the truth is that you go to a therapist and you feel good, but you also feel awful, a little awful and a little good, and a little awful and a little good. And once the change is done, then you're sort of, feeling good generally. But during the change, it's actually a little uncomfortable. So when we are undoing somatization, it's not going to be always comfortable. It's therapy is going to feel good, but it will also bring up insights, memories. It will bring up feelings, and it can be uncomfortable. It can't always be uncomfortable, not comfortable. So, what to expect? You know, so for example, if somebody has chronic respiratory issues is often linked to somatization. We can imagine or we can think that there are some traumas that are unconscious, subconscious, they've been put away, and they're there. And when there is a trigger, some kind of a trigger, then those traumas and those feelings get triggered and they start surfacing up. And because feelings, the wiring is not there for those traumas to come up as feelings, as tears or anger, or those feelings are just not acceptable in the environment around the person, because it means that they have no control or they're not able to emotionally regulate, or there's something wrong with them. So there could be that judgment. So that person, just automatically, unconsciously, not even thinking about it, suddenly the body is going to develop a pain. It's going to develop, an issue in the body, like um, you know, um, like unable to breathe, for example, or there is IBS, intestine. Intestines have a lot of brain cells. I was just chatting with a doctor the other day, just 2 days back, a relative of mine, and we were talking about how many brain cells there are in the intestines. So the intestines are going to have this reaction. It could be like going to the loo a lot or getting completely constipated. It could be nausea. Nausea, acid reflux often is connected to somatization. Now, let me clarify that somatization doesn't mean that the illness is not there. That's another, very misunderstood term, and psychosomatic, we really didn't understand, somatic, responses 50 years ago when I think this term psychosomatic was coined. Now we understand that this is actually a physiological response. This, asthma, inability to breathe, this intestinal, issue, going to the washroom. Yes, the person is going to go to the washroom. Yes, they are going to have acid reflux. Yes, they are going to have, the cramps in the stomach. But the issue that's actually triggering that isn't a germ, it isn't a actual physical cause, it's a psychological cause. It's an emotion, and the emotion is called anxiety. And anxiety is a very big word, but there are actually, when you really unpack anxiety, there are all sorts of other emotions underneath. So they're not able to express their anxiety, they're not able to verbalize their anxiety. For example, if somebody who does not somatize and they're having anxiety, they're going to be able to describe it in fine detail, articulate it. I feel as if there's this big, tube down the middle of my body and it is squeezing me. And I feel as if there's this burning going through my intestines, and it feels like there's this fire floating around my body, and I just feel this and I feel that, and this happens and that happens. Mind you, if this person is able to do that, the physical symptoms are going to subside. At the end of that explanation of how that person is feeling, they may have a release with tears, they may actually start taking deep breaths. Afterwards, they may go home and have a very good night's sleep. And so that's when we know that the person is no longer somatizing that anxiety. Now, it could be grief that does that. They're just unable to breathe. They are coughing. They've got this irritation in the throat because they're holding down an anxiety, a grief, a sorrow. And then once they're able to express those feelings and they just feel safe enough to express those feelings, then that person is going to feel a ton better because they were able to voice what they were actually feeling. They were feeling sad. They were feeling helpless. They were feeling alone. And they were able to feel those feelings in the presence of someone without being afraid. And that is sometimes all that patients may need from their doctor, somebody to just listen to them and tell them they're right, and it's okay to have this feeling. And unfortunately, we lack that. That is a huge resource that we lack, and that resource is empathy and time for another person. So in general culture, many of us, is quite sad to admit, lack that basic thing, even in close relationships. And that's another topic on its own. That's a sociological topic, and that is more along the lines of what we as a society need to do. I think at the fundamental level, we need to spread this awareness, which is why I'm making these videos. And if you can spread these around, I would be absolutely thrilled, because I think it can help so many people to understand that they are not alone in this response of body pain or bodily discomfort due to stressful things in their life, that they can be helped, and that maybe things, even if they're really afraid that things are not going to change, they're not going to get better, they feel hopeless and helpless, these feelings can be helped, because we can't control what happens to us tomorrow. We don't really know. There's a lot of uncertainty that's a given in our situation. So we don't need to, focus there. If we can just focus on the present moment and be with our feelings, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant, and be safe enough to feel them and to release them, then we can move forward in our life feeling a little bit lighter. So there are a few techniques that I have personally found to be extremely helpful for somatization. And I know a lot of people think they need resources, they need this and they need that, but actually, we can easily afford some of the stuff that I'm going to say. We can afford to make the time, we can afford to talk to a qualified person who can help us. It's not so much out of our reach. But we need to make ourselves the priority, right? That's the important part of it, is to designate yourself as being worthy enough for your feelings to be felt and to be understood and to be made important and valuable. So that's the first step, is that you designate yourself and your feelings, your experience is valuable enough, right? And so here are a few little things that one can do on one's own. The first one, the one that I love the best, is expression. Whether it's art therapy or journaling, expressing the feelings, feeling safe enough to write it down, to paint it out, to say it out, to dance it out, in some way to express the feelings that you're feeling of discomfort, loneliness, estrangement, and alienation, anger, frustration, um, joy, whatever it is, thrill, like, let's express that. So I do love drama therapy. I love psychodrama, if that's possible. I know in these days of COVID-19, being at home, being stuck in front of a computer, it's not very easy to find the expressive arts, but I know that some people are doing stuff online. So that's something worth looking into, is expression. And that can also include yoga, because yoga, which is more expressive, can also help us connect with those feelings and express those feelings. So that's the very, very first step, is to make that attempt. Now, whether it happens or not is going to be all about persistence. So for some people, this is an immediate, you know, um, resource. Is so immediate for them to be able to write this, to say this, and that's excellent. And for some people, they may still struggle with it, and if they do struggle with it, then it's important that they get some tools that are really helpful, such as the emotion wheel, such as journaling, such as getting a little bit of guidance and support from their therapist on how to actually articulate and express feelings without judgment. So we want to do all this without judgment, without the fear that we will. It's not respectable what we're doing. Like, there could be all sorts of cultural beliefs that can obstruct people when they are starting out on this path. So I just want to say that that's also something to look into, is how you feel about doing therapy. Is there any judgment about it? So, and then the third thing that I highly, highly recommend is mindfulness meditation. I am not talking about all kinds of meditation for this issue, even though meditation, including prayer, any kind of imagination work, such as hypnosis oriented meditations or imagery, they can all be very, very helpful to a person. But for somatization, particularly, which is this constant fatigue, which we have this element of that anyway, one of the most important ones is mindfulness, because mindfulness is very grounding and it creates new neural pathways. Any meditation is going to do that regardless. Mindfulness, on the other hand, will do two things. It will help people connect to the feelings, develop the focus to be able to focus on the feelings, and also to process the feelings and release the feelings, which I think is extremely beneficial. For other types of meditation, imagery based, which they're very, very powerful if you have a great imagination, if you already have that. But say you don't, and you're like, okay, this person next to me, I don't know if I was supposed to visualize a woman wearing white, and what is the significance of that? What does that mean? If your mind goes into that, like, what's the point of me visualizing this, and what's the point of me visualizing a river, and what's the point of all of that? Then and then you struggle to do it, or you look at it and you're like, I don't know if I did this right. If you get a little bit caught up in that, it's sort of self inquiry, or the monkey mind basically going round and round. Then I do also recommend mindfulness, because mindfulness can mean that you develop the focus first to be able to focus on the emotion, which is extremely important to do any kind of work that's around releasing the pattern of somatizing. So somatizing, has it creates a certain brain structure. Like, it changes the way neurons are connected. It really, people with somatization, they can't feel. This hasn't happened, so they are not getting the data input to be able to feel the feeling. And that happened very long time ago, in babyhood, in childhood. There was significant trauma. There was something which is, and maybe it was intergenerational, so the parents and the grandparents and ancestral suppression. So they just are not able to verbalize feelings. So that's why the physical symptoms may be difficult for them. A lot of people who have chronic somatization may actually deny all of this, even though it is actually part of the medical literature. So one of the things that I've observed is that sometimes people who do suffer from somatization can often just call this very woo-woo, call this very strange, call this you know, I don't know if that's real, even. Like, how can it be real? And that disease is real, and somatization, can't possibly make sense to them. Or they'll think that people are actually making it up. Well, you're not making it up. Let me be very, very clear with somatization. People are not making it up. There are physiological effects of that emotion. They are in the body. The body is expressing all of this, except that the person doesn't realize that it's actually an emotional cause. They don't realize that the reason why they're feeling this way is because somebody yelled at them 2 hours ago. They don't make that connection. They don't realize that the reason why they suddenly had this belly pain is because they were feeling really anxious. And they're feeling really anxious about maybe their car, you know. And they are just so used to sort of diverting that information somewhere. And that happens automatically for them. They're not able to feel and verbalize that, hey, I can't talk to you right now because I need to take care of my belongings that are in the car. you know they just might have this huge twinge in their stomach, and they'll be like, I don't know what's happening to my stomach. They just need to maybe say, no, I need to go and get my wallet from my car and I forgot it there. They just may not feel like they can do that. They just don't connect. The neural pathways, the thought waves don't come through that I'm getting anxious because my wallet's in the car, but this my boss needs to talk to me right now. I need to say, I'm so sorry, I have to go there. What will happen is they'll just have the stomach ache. And then if they are not aware of why that stomach ache's happening, it might take a few hours for them to become aware that they were just anxious about going to the car to get a wallet. So there's so many examples in our life of how we may behave like that. A lot of them are basically pointing to one thing and one thing only, that people who somatize a lot, they have not experienced safety to the degree that maybe other people have, and sometimes that can be coming from early childhood. So, as they increase their level of safety to be themselves, to express their feelings, to articulate their feelings, to practice verbalizing their feelings, they are going to create the new neural pathways, and they're going to be able to self regulate. So, what does self regulation mean? So, more on self regulation. So, emotional regulation basically means that you're able to feel the emotion and you're able to let it go. Now, it's a very tall order, psychologically speaking, because you may not have grown up in a world where that was okay to do. Because if you're feeling your emotion, then you're crying, you know. If you're feeling your emotion, your voice may raise. If you're feeling your emotion, then your heartbeat is going to go faster. You may feel sweaty. And a lot of people, have been punished for those reactions, for yelling, for speaking loudly, for crying. They've been punished. They've been sent away to their room. So they feel like they're bad people if they express their feelings. Even later on in life, and sometimes, if they do express those feelings, there is consequences of that, because people may not like them anymore because they were foolish enough to express their feelings. They stood in front of a class and cried, for example, and now they're that foolish person, and their self perception may be like that as well. So every time they feel a feeling come up, like a panicked feeling, a scared feeling, they just sort of like just find it overwhelming. And when we're scared about feeling scared, it just gets worse. We get more scared. So I'm scared about feeling scared, so I'm going to get double scared, right? And then I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't be scared. I can't be scared. I have to stop this because I'm feeling scared. Pretty soon we've actually got ourselves into a panic attack again. So, emotional regulation means that we are okay with the feeling. The first time we're able to self regulate and calm ourselves down, my clients have said that they felt absolutely incredible, because they were able to feel the feeling but not act on it. They were able to ask for a time out, for example. Hey, I'm not feeling too good right now. Let's not talk right now. Let me call you back when I'm feeling a little bit better. Or they're able to say, this is really overwhelming for me. Can we talk tomorrow? I need a little time. Whereas in the past, they would have, acted out or yelled, or they would have somatized. They would have developed a cramp in their stomach, or they would have started, wheezing, or they would have just, had severe body pain and wondered, why am I having body pain? What did I do? Am I falling sick? So, and now this person is able to say, oh, when this person said that, it just drained all my energy, and I just felt so drained from that that I had to go and, take time out or something like that. That's okay. That's actually okay. That's a healthier regulation than complete denial and, like, okay, this is not happening. The second, it's also because I think somatization kind of scares people because it means that they are not in control, which is exactly why this video is really important. The one of the fundamental fears of people who somatize is the feeling that they're not in control, that they're helpless, and they're not going to be helped, and they're going to be alone and abandoned. And that's coming from the initial traumas which created that in their brain. So, people who do somatize, they need to go, and understand some of this for themselves so that they don't feel guilty about somatizing and don't want anybody to feel guilty about it, because that's the reason why we somatize in the first place, is because we feel guilty. We feel like we are not in control. And so when we sort of allow some of the emotions the first few times, it's going to feel overwhelming. And for a lot of people, it's safer that they do it in the therapist's office the first couple of times. So they kind of learn how to do this. And then once they learn how to do this, they can actually relax themselves on their own and bring themselves out of the intensity of the feelings. So feelings only last for a short while. So they don't last forever. It's a feeling, it's not a death sentence, it's not the end. It is a feeling, and feelings flow, they change over time. They go in and out. There's happiness one day, there's anger the other day. That we are not one thing on one time. And we can't expect ourselves to be completely consistent with our emotions and our behavior at all times. There are going to be days when you're going to be feeling down. There are going to be days when you have more energy. And so to sort of have more positive, growth oriented mindset that, hey, I'm learning, I'm doing the best I can. Today I felt really down. I wanted to stay in bed and read a book. That's where I was. Tomorrow I'm going to go play and, take care of myself. The third day, maybe you're just feeling so much better, you decide to commit to taking some education because you're feeling better. So you don't know how it's going to evolve as you take care of yourself right now in this moment, and to try and control it can often make people feel really, really overwhelmed. So, with somatization or undoing somatization, small steps, regular sessions, um, making sure you're doing the self care, taking your own emotions seriously, not letting other people tell you that there's something wrong with you because you're having a feeling. Your feeling is the way that your body, you are adapting to life, and feelings are a big part of it. So, our adaptation can only happen successfully if we have a reaction to life. If we have no reaction to life and we expect ourselves to be perpetually happy all the time, that's going to set us up for failure, because we're not meant to be just one thing every day. We have feelings, we have shifts, we have thoughts, we have moments, and it's just all part of it. So, I hope that you enjoyed this particular segment on somatization, why we do it, how we do it, how to come out of it, and a little bit more on the background of the therapeutic interventions that can be helpful. I'm going to post that up in the next video, the third video, which is a little bit of, different types of intervention that can help with this issue, which is actually very, very super common. Okay, so you're not alone here. We all do this. I think it's just super, super important to recognize that we're not alone, and we all find different ways to cope with life, and one of them can be somatizing. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. Bye now. Have a good one.